Stop motion animation. With traditional and especially nowadays with computer animation being the most prominent in the realm of this medium, stop motion has a rather peculiar position where you have big names like Nightmare Before Christmas, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Coraline, yet they're not exactly box office juggernauts. There's a painstaking amount of work put into the process, and it's not very often they get their due praise compared to their 2D and 3D counterparts. This is where I will step in to give stop motion the respect and attention it deserves by watching a bunch of movies and then ordering them in a way that will please the almighty algorithm by ranking them from worst to best. So expect studios like and Aardman, but also directors like Tim Burton, Henry Selick, and Wes Anderson. From spooky favorites to indie darlings to so independent you haven't heard of them, I found 35 movies from 16 countries, most of which are co-productions, and I'm gonna rank them all. However, I'm not ranking them by who has the best stop motion or what is objectively the best movie overall, but in my own personal taste. Just a bunch of movies that all happen to be in stop motion, if you will. I have a set of criteria that each of these films must have for the sake of your entertainment and my sanity. Like the title says every stop motion animated movie, but a list on Wikipedia will say otherwise. Just imagine there's an invisible asterisk that says that I could find. 1, it must be at least an hour long, so no specials like Robot Chicken or the Rankin Bass ones. Sorry. Besides, it's June.
Have you ever considered piracy?
What? Wesley? No, but it leads to my next rule. 2, it must be easily accessible, as in it's readily available to stream and or rent. No sketchy websites, no $100 eBay DVD copies, I'm not that dedicated. 3, just because it looks like stop motion doesn't mean it is stop motion. Stop motion, as in some type of tangible object like a puppet, clay figure, or cutout that is moved frame by frame. This usually causes a drop frame rate in order to save time and money where it doesn't move as smoothly as 24 a second. Which leads me to say, because I know someone's gonna ask about them, the Lego movies aren't allowed. I know. They haven't aged a day, but if you weren't aware, they're not stop motion, they're computer animated. Trust me. If they weren't, the Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie would be number 1 and number 2. Or number 1 and number 2. I can never make up my mind. Same rule applies to the South Park movie and Flushed Away. I'm sorry. Live action or 2D hybrids are fine, cause why not, as long as they heavily feature characters who are in stop motion. I thought Monkey Bone would be eligible, until it wasn't, when I wasted an entire $4 on renting it and found out Mr. Horny John Turturro Monkey takes over Brendan Fraser's body for half the movie. Alright, so let me just start off by saying that I don't think there was any movie on here that was technically the worst. This video is all in good fun and none of these were objectively bad, so instead I'm gonna label the first few as not my thing. Again, this list is ranked in order of my personal taste and opinion on these films, so please don't burn me at the stake. With that being said, number 35 is... It's not a proper ranking video until there's at least one hot take, am I right? I'm sorry, I was not looking forward to revisiting this one. It's considered to be one of the greatest animated films, let alone French ones out there and whatnot, but I don't get it. Let me put it this way, there are 3-hour movies I love, like Titanic, The Batman, and RRR, that feel like they have 70-minute runtimes of movies like this and Ocean Waves. But then there are movies like this and Ocean Waves that feel like they have the runtime of Titanic, The Batman, and RRR. You know? Alright, you may be thinking this looks like traditional animation, but it's actually something called cutout stop motion. You make figures out of paper or fabric and move them one frame at a time. Monty Python and early episodes of South Park are probably the most well-known examples of this, and it won't be the last time a movie with this style shows up on this list. Anyway, sure, these designs are unique, but they're not the most pleasant to look at. I mean, do you really want to look at characters that have those red circle emojis as eyes for over an hour? I think the story is a slog to get through, but there's a couple moments that are unintentionally funny. There's this one scene where the aliens make their pet human children fight to the death like they're gathered around at recess to let their Beyblades rip. There's also only so much footage I can show because a good chunk of the runtime has a lot of naked ladies running around.
Well, that's one of the good things about Paris. Lots of girls willing to take their clothes off.
The only way I can describe this animation style is that it's giving Trader Joe's core. Like, I swear I've seen this kid on their bags before. I've been seeing some bangers at this art house theater I love going to called the Frida Cinema, and they have this large mural in the lobby where Fantastic Planet is featured, so I will admit it is pretty cool seeing it out in the wild like that. But I just find it incredibly boring and confusing, and the psychedelic visuals don't do anything for me. Reminds me of another experimental late 60s, early 70s psychedelic animated movie that I also don't like, Yellow Submarine, which I also saw at the Frida. Ugh, people are gonna be so mad at me for saying this stuff. Some movies you vibe with, some movies you don't. Let's continue, shall we?
Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. So help me, so help me.
Man, I'm really not helping my case with these takes, am I? From visual effects legend Phil Tippett comes Mad God, a stop-motion nightmare 30 years in the making that travels through the hellish Dante's Inferno-like underworld of unspeakable atrocities, revolting creatures, and dilapidated environments, all comprised of every bodily fluid you can think of. Yes. Very meatcore. Take the unholy abomination Tetsuo turns into in the climax of Akira, and multiply it by 6. But I will admit this movie has more of a strange world than, well, Strange World. The only reason why I put this above Fantastic Planet is because, I don't know, it feels wrong to put a movie that took 3 decades to produce all the way at the bottom. I don't want to dismiss it that hard when, again, it's simply not my thing. But how the operation scene is available to watch on YouTube is absolutely beyond me. But I'll be damned if I use 10 seconds of a lo-fi hip-hop beat. Okay. So what do I like about it? I liked when there were bright colors. About 10 minutes before the movie was over. For the most part, you're just following the single character traverse through this horrid landscape. If you like David Cronenbergian body horror in your movies, then Mad God is just for you. Go crazy, go stupid, or whatever, but I'd rather not watch this movie ever again. A twisted Czechoslovakian take on Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Don't get it mixed up with the Disney movie, this one's got undead animals. Never before have I seen someone use skeletons and taxidermied animals as puppets, but props for resourcefulness, I guess. Can I just say that's really impressive how there's only one actor in this film, both on screen and narration? Yep, it's Alice herself. She doesn't say much, but she does a good job reacting to the world around her and figuring it out, so props to Kristina Kohotova. It's been a minute since I last watched an Alice in Wonderland movie, so it could be me not vibing with the lack of a clear narrative, since the director's intention was for it to feel like a dream, but I was pretty bored throughout. I wouldn't call it a horror movie, but a film made for children. Perhaps. Those are the movie's words, not mine.
Made for children. Perhaps.
I would recommend sticking with the Disney version for the kiddies. Oh, and the posters for this movie go pretty hard, so yeah. And while I was editing this, Space Tree Studios, who you know from Schaeferless Productions channel, showed our friends and me this short from the same director, Jan Svankmajer, called Darkness, Light, Darkness, and I have but one thing to say about it. Thanks, William, I hate it. I think it's so funny how there weren't any lyrics in the closed captions, because I guess the songs really were that forgettable. Randy Newman, I'm sorry. But yeah, this was a movie. None of the characters were all that interesting, but I suppose we now know how Jack Skellington died. That was generally a fun Easter egg. I mean, if you're directing another stop-motion animated movie with the same company, you might as well ask if you can reuse a puppet or two. If you've ever seen this guy followed by the phrase something along the lines of "what are the most creepiest animated movies?" he's from this movie. For me personally, this was the most memorable scene in the movie. Dare I say the only memorable scene. The Adventures of Mark Twain was directed by Will Vinton, the one who coined the term claymation, and is also responsible for the California Raisins mascots. He's very influential in the world of stop motion. I'm not here to discredit that. I'm just here to explain my thoughts on the movie itself. I honestly found it very dry and boring. A large chunk of time is about the story of Adam and Eve, but then at some point they discover the law of gravity and create Valentine's Day. I don't know. Though I kept thinking about how Mark Twain looks like the grandfather from The Princess Bride the entire time.
See? Didn't I tell you she'd never marry that rotten Humperdinck?
Yes, you're very smart. Shut up.
Guess it is a bit uncanny. The highlight is easily the scene with Satan. This part goes pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie.
Who are you?
An angel.
What's your name?
Satan.
Yeah, this is Satan, by the way. We're just gonna move on now. Basically, the 3 main kids are hanging out with Satan. Building little clay people when he brings life to them. Then he kills them. With no remorse. He kills and 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 he says this.
People are of no value. We could make more sometime. If we need them.
Yeah, it's definitely a standout moment. I like his design and how his masquerade mask morphs and the scene well, delves into existential topics. Everything else dragged for me, though from what I can tell, everything is made of clay, which makes the opening scene and other little moments all the more impressive to watch. It's so freaking satisfying. If you want to know more about the movie, I recommend checking out Saber Sparks' video.
Bring it on.
Like many of the films on here, this was an interesting watch. According to its IMDb trivia, it was 13 years in the making, and it shows. It's a little over an hour long, and it's about a group of high-class mice commissioning a group of working-class creatures who dwell under the oak to make a doll for them. The creatures end up getting attached to the doll, so when the mice steal it from them, they set out to find it while encountering various obstacles. This one's got a female director, which I thought was really neat. Like, look at these credits. Go off, girl. Although the movie's bookended by live-action scenes featuring her, don't be fooled by the opening sequence. Yeah, it's a bit creepy and off-putting, but the rest of the film isn't like that. It's like a Tim Burton movie, moody and macabre, but not specifically scary. One of my favorite things I like doing while watching these movies for this video was noticing how they animated water. Of course, water is impossible to control frame by frame, which was the reason why Flushed Away is computer animated and not stop motion. So I found there are various ways you can create water. One such technique is using cellophane, and it does the job well. This movie isn't exactly my cup of tea, but it might be for you, so who knows. This movie's fine. It's fine. Having a film entirely black and white, especially for it being as recent as it is a bold touch, but I'm not really one for stories about dead animals. The most I can say is I've gone to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party at Disneyland, where it's the only time out of the entire year where you get to dress up in costumes and you walk around at each ride and trick or treat. And I remember on the bags they handed out, one side had the Wreck-It Ralph teaser poster while the other side had Frankenweenie. That's literally the most interesting thing I could say about this movie. Fun fact, before starting this list, this was the only Laika movie I hadn't seen. Kinda happens to be my least favorite as well. Since I'm talking about Laika now, I guess I have to bring this up. I was about 5 years old when a certain film of theirs was released, and it absolutely scarred me, which resulted in a near decade-long grudge I held against them. Dramatic for someone as young as I was, I know. I was afraid all their films would affect me the same way, such as the Box Trolls. It never interested me anyway. Whenever I watch my Song of the Sea DVD, I have to see this trailer who knows how many times.
A pleasure to meet you.
Since Song of the Sea was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars that year, the trailers were other nominees, so I guess it makes sense why you would show films like Box Trolls, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, and, of course, Monster High Haunted.
I think I'm being haunted.
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Anyway, that's a lot of talking not about the Box Trolls, so let's talk about the Box Trolls now. It's fine. Ben Kingsley did a pretty great job, and the mid-credit scene was my favorite part. I love when animators are meta.
Those monsters are just tiny clay figures moved around one frame at a time by an antisocial shut-in. Those people are called animators.
Though I have to ask, the Box Trolls is, well, boxes are like their shells, right? When Eggs comes out of his for a second, they all freak out. And on that slide that takes them underground, it's covered in cardboard. Are those the shells of their fallen and or unborn brethren? It's Shaun the Sheep, but mixed in with the Iron Giant in E.T. Yeah, that's kind of what this is. I'm writing this segment not even 24 hours after I watched it, and I really don't remember much. Though it did make me hungry for pizza. Yum. Yep. Yo, season 3 of Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal looks whack. It's aggressively British, Tom Hiddleston attempted to do a French accent, and the closed captions were kinda goofy in a British sort of way. The messenger bird and commentators were funny, and I liked how they made jabs at players who were overdramatic about their injuries. However, it's another Aardman outing I feel very, very lukewarm about. This one doesn't really click with me, I'm sorry. I mean, call me crazy, but I don't want to think about the fact that some poor soul had to make those two puppets bump uglies. Probably spent weeks, if not months, on that scene. I like how they visualize Sir Patrick Stewart's, I don't know, I don't remember his name, perspective with everyone having the same face and even same voices. Everyone except, you know, Lisa. because that's what makes her an anomaly. And I really liked this shot of the sun backlighting her, giving her this radiant and luminous glow. Yeah, it was digital, but it's still really impressive to be able to capture that kind of specific light so accurately. Seeing a Sonori cam shot in a stop motion movie was also really cool. I don't know how they did that. The rain sets the mood very well, and I think it's really creative how they don't hide the seams in the characters' faces. Hey, it's a story about an imperfect guy, you might as well show the imperfections in this world. This section is taken off in between frames so the character can create a different emotion or to match the lip flaps of the dialogue. And since the characters make various expressions for each frame, that means you have to have thousands of these faces. It's friggin' mind-blowing. Movies like From Laika will either hide the seam or make the face one piece, which I understand, showing the seam can be distracting, but for Anomalisa I think it works. Especially for everyone else, since it's like they're all wearing Michael's face as a mask. Hey look, I remembered his name! My favorite part of all this is how they play around with it in the movie, with Michael casually almost taking off his face and it even falling off in a later scene. I love how much he emotes with just his eyes in these 2 seconds. That's kind of about it. I was even waiting for that room service, wondering if it was actually going to come in real time, but it never did. It never freaking did. I might be too dumb for this movie. Oh well. No joke, when I watched the movies for this list, I didn't know this movie existed until Cell-Specs mentioned it in their Best of 2022 Movies video. Just when I think I'm aware of every animated movie that comes out each year. If you want a movie about Zootopia taking place in the afterlife, here you go. It's a quaint story, also from our good friends from the Czech Republic, about a predator and prey slowly learning to become friends as they explore the good place I mean heaven. The stop motion is decent, but the afterlife itself is very well detailed and it has these dreamlike qualities. The dreaminess of it all makes me think of the spirit world from this Chinese Donghua movie called Big Fish and Begonia, even down to the theater and circular communal home the characters live in. The first act or so probably goes by a bit too quickly, but if you like animated features where death is a central theme, you might find something worthwhile from it.
Ta-da! Take good care of it.
Key and Peele yassify James Hong and it's epic. Yep, so, Henry Selick's first film in 13 years. Since Coraline. Could have been better. I do like Key and Peele, but I thought they were funnier as Ducky and Bunny. And for a movie called Wendell and Wild, I wish there was more Wendell and Wild. There was a bit too much going on to really grasp the plot lines. I like the social commentary on prisons, this goat was really cute, Raoul was great, and James Hong supremacy.
I thought you were dead.
My death was greatly exaggerated.
Kind of weird that this movie isn't called The Corpse Bride. Like, just Corpse Bride? Really? Just me? Whatever. It's pretty cool that this is technically like its first stop-motion movie. They don't advertise it as one of their own because I guess it's mostly Tim Burton's and Warner Brothers. I don't know. I like the use of colors in the underworld, and the scenes involving a piano were my favorite. I've had Victor's piano solo on one of my Spotify playlists for years. It's pretty great. It wasn't too bad in the comedy department. I liked most of them in the third act, but that's kind of about it. I know this one has a lot of fans, but I'm not really one of them. I'm not really one for anthologies and short stories since I prefer them being expanded upon, but this one's serviceable. Having the overarching narrative revolving around this house in the past, present, and future is an interesting idea, though I like the first and second story more than the third. I first watched this when it came out last January, so revisiting it now, it's pretty cool I watched something with Mia Goth a few months before she had her big break. And it was fitting for her to be in the first story because, yeah, she does sound like a Victorian ghost. The first story certainly delivers on that slow burn creep factor. The second story has some of that as well, but with more comedy. From what I've seen, people weren't a fan of this segment, but I kinda liked it. I like the running gag about the contractor and talking to a supposed loved one on the phone, calling them sweetheart and whatnot, and the reveal of who it actually is pretty funny. The ending is unnerving, but at the same time it feels like it's sane. This says a lot about our society. And don't ask me about the bugs, I don't know either. Third story, I like the cats. Cats are cool. I suppose everything is left a little too vague and there should have been more substance. It's not like I don't like ambiguity in my stories. It can be fun to analyze the themes and characters, but it depends on how well the movie executes it. There's just not much I can look into further for this one, but it's still an intriguing concept. Me hearing a synth score and seeing a bunch of kids defeat supernatural monsters makes my Stranger Things brain go brrrr. If it wasn't for this rewatch, I would have placed it lower on the list, but that third act kind of made it for me. I like climaxes where the character has to outsmart or talk to the villain in some way, and the way they executed it is really compelling. Aggie's design was cool, and I really like the contrast of the forest before and after. I also like the movie's theme of our fear of the unknown, where the town is trying to kill the zombies, but then the zombies were the town officials who accused women of witchcraft. Funny thing how history repeats itself. Some of the comedy has aged for better.
What do you think you're doing firing at civilians? That is for the police to do!
Or for worse.
Hand, Alvin, my hand.
Oh, and Mitch is pretty based. I hope he and his boyfriend are doing well. If you came up to me and asked me what I believe to be the most innovative animated films, not necessarily influential, but ones that actually challenged what you can do with the medium, I would say Toy Story, Spider-Man, Into and Across the Spider-Verse, Loving Vincent, and La Casa Lobo. This is La Casa Lobo, or The Wolf House, and it's... How about I just show you some clips instead?
De pronto, los ojos se me cerraron.
Yeah. Let me explain. This is a Chilean take on The Three Little Pigs, where a girl named Maria runs away into the forest and hides in an abandoned house with 2 pigs. They transform into children, and as the film progresses, the house distorts more and more into a nightmare, reflecting Maria's mental state and trauma. It begins with paintings on the wall, frame by frame, mind you. I mean, are you seeing this? Until they become physical figures. All the while being shot like it's one take. This is a horror film, but not really the kind you've come to expect. It's not gory, there's no jump scares, it's more so the atmosphere and specifically the historical context behind it. It's based on Colonia Dignidad, an isolated colony in Chile established by former Nazistan who, well, being Nazistan, commit a lot of atrocities in this place, especially to children. The opening live action segment is basically how they perceive themselves to the outside world. Ugh. Back to the animation. It's utterly fascinating to watch. I like the detail of how they have to keep replacing the candles since they melt faster than the actual stop motion process. The movie is more of an experience than an easy to comprehend narrative, so there's not too much dialogue, unless you like your ASMR in Español.
Hola, hay alguien aquí. Hay un chileno aquí.
Oh, and if you thought the whistle of death from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was creepy, just wait until you hear this, Lobo. An easy recommend for craftsmanship alone, though the movie overall isn't for everyone. I will admit, even I appreciate it more than I like it. If you do give it a watch, it's probably best to skim the Wikipedia article for the colony beforehand so you get the gist of the historical context. And no, I don't know why there's so many inexplicable giant floating baby heads either. So if you thought Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the first ever animated feature, think again. This is the second film on this list to be created with cutout animation, specifically silhouette this time. It's basically the same, except the characters and settings are backlit, taking inspiration from shadow puppetry, which is believed to originate from China or India from the first millennium BC. While it's not the first animated feature ever, there have been a few before it that are considered lost. It is the oldest surviving, being released in 1926, 11 years before Uncle Walt probably even thought of the concept of a feature-length animated movie. Not only that, it is also the first to be directed by a woman, Lotte Reiniger, something the US didn't think of doing until... ...1998. And when did a woman get to solely direct one? 2011. So yeah, this movie was kind of ahead of its time in that department, as well as when you include the fact that this is an adaptation of 1001 Nights Tale featuring Aladdin. This is a silent film, so it's not going to appeal to everybody. Even I was more lenient during this rewatch. Call it recency bias, call it whatever. I mean, you're kind of going to see that when I bring up silent movies again in a little bit, but who cares? Anyway, for being almost 100 years old, it's still a sight to behold. It's been remastered to have some, beautifully vibrant color tinting that makes each and every frame pop, and some impeccable detail on the character designs. Like The Wolf House, I'm more fascinated by this movie's technicalities. If I was ranking this video in that order, they would honestly be in my top 3. It's only an hour, so you might as well give it a chance. Makes me wish we had more animated movies with shadow puppetry. It's either executed beautifully when we see it for one scene like Kung Fu Panda 2, or it gets scrapped like in the case of Mulan. Watching Prince Ahmed made me check out Michel Oslo's Tales of the Night, which I would have included and honestly put in the top 10, but it wasn't animated frame by frame. I highly recommend checking out that one too, it's really good. I probably would have liked this more if I didn't accidentally spoil the ending for myself. Oops. It's a sweet but tragic story, and even though I knew Will was going to go into some mature topics, I was still surprised by how dark it got. It's got quirky character design and movement, as well as being mostly black and white, but with splashes of red that certainly makes it stand out. From what I've read, it also has good mental illness representation. It does use the R slur, but Max is proud to have Asperger's syndrome, and I commend the movie for that. I recommend it. Just, you know, don't spoil yourself like I did. This might be one of the most 7 out of movies to 7 out of 10. I liked it a wee bit more on a second viewing because I didn't remember it being this funny. With this being an Aardman production, you'd think the countryside takes place somewhere in rural England, but when they show the big city, it's literally downtown LA. But hey, it looks like it has more walkability than any city in the US, so I'll give them that. It's a simple story, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's an easy watch. Though some of the more recent Aardman movies I've watched, like this one and a couple that I mentioned previously, feel like they're all trying to replicate the Everything is Awesome effect by having a pop song, and I just think it's kind of unnecessary. It's like they're trying to have their own version of Everything is Awesome, but without the self-awareness. However, I will say I do like Timmy. Timmy is just, and I can't stress this enough, a little guy. Love that little man. You know, I find it fascinating how many movies on this list have little to no dialogue. In fact, it wasn't until now when I realized there's a lot more than I thought. It's strange most of them happen to be in stop motion, but I guess the reason why they're able to take that risk is because they're either independent and or were produced outside the US. I appreciate when an animated movie breaks away from the mainstream formula and lets the visuals take the reins. Film is a visual medium and all. Shout out to the non-stop motion silent movies that do this too. Anyway. Hey yo, Mr. White. I never realized just how gorgeous this movie looks. A decent chunk of the backgrounds are digital, but still, they're pretty. I also like how the characters go to Santa Ana, California at one point, because hey, that's where the Frida is. I'm pretty sure that's the same water tower too, that's cool. The characters aren't all that interesting, but I don't mind seeing them go on this journey. Though I did find myself liking Emma Thompson's character, mainly because Emma Thompson, I love you, mwah, but also because she had funny lines and she looks like the great Shanna Key from Song of the Sea. This is Laika's least horror-oriented film, though I don't think that's a bad thing, even if it could have been a stronger movie in general. Believe it or not, this was actually the first Wallace and Gromit thing I've watched. Not even the shorts. I don't know why, I just haven't. Aardman does a great job with their transitions and match fades, and some jokes got a decent chuckle out of me. This is also the goofiest role I've seen Ray Fiennes in. I mean, I haven't been able to stop saying, if I can't have your money, then I can still bag your bunny. There's no way this guy and the man from Schindler's List are the same actor. About that. I love when villains get more manic, desperate, and blind with their rage as the movie progresses, so that was fun to watch. So yeah, I liked it. Very charming and very British. Was rather surprised how much I liked this one. DreamWorks probably had more to do than Wallace and Gromit, so that meant not as much British humor. It had some nice editing and good cinematography. I also liked this movie's comedic edge, kind of like Toy Story. Then I remembered that Jeffrey Katzenberg was involved in the production of both movies, so it made more sense. I hope this movie doesn't have its own Black Friday reel. I found it to be charming and quirky, so 'twas a pleasant movie. And hey, if that sequel's any good, then I guess I'll check it out. Oh, and am I evil for saying I was in the mood for chicken pot pie after this? We need more PG-13 animated movies like this. A lot of Wes Anderson's signature charm shows in this movie, and when it has color, those colors pop. I also love how it's a deliberate choice. You can see the fur and hair move from the animators having to move the puppets for each frame. You can see and maybe even feel the effort put into it, and the taiko drumming scenes? Ooh. Chef's kiss. My favorite character was the gossipy Jeff Goldblum dog. He's a good boy, and you can never have enough Jeff Goldblum. The voice acting in general was very strong. Bryan Cranston did a great job, as he always does.
What happened? Why did I do that? To this day, I have no idea. I guess he scared me. I'd bite.
I guess the pacing drags here and there, but there's something about the production design that makes it a visual feast for the eyes, like any Wes Anderson movie, I suppose. And after experiencing a pandemic and the 2020 presidential election, it kinda hits different. Keep them coming with these stop-motion films, Mr. Anderson. You're doing great, sweetie. The story about a young Palestinian girl discovering her homeland and ancestors' memories while she and her family live in a refugee camp in Lebanon. The closest thing I can compare it to is Cartoon Saloon's The Breadwinner, since it's the only other animated movie I know of that takes place in present-day-ish Middle East. They're also about young girls living there while having an alternate art style during scenes not taking place in the present. I'm personally a bigger fan of The Breadwinner since I connected more with Parvana's journey and her struggles and found her to be more compelling and fleshed out overall. But Vardy has charm to her as well. She's very cute and I liked exploring her family's history alongside her. Both movies have a handful of flinch-worthy scenes that can be hard to watch as well, tackling issues that are unfortunately still relevant in the Middle East. Combining stop-motion animation for the present, 2D for the past, and live-action archival footage for news segments and family photos, it may be the least popular film on this list according to Letterboxd, but it's still one that deserves a watch. Rewatching this film for this ranking made me have, dare I say, different opinions toward this movie. It was my first Wes Anderson film back during the early days of quarantine many eons ago, so I didn't really know what to expect. I liked it enough, but after watching some more films since then, I'll get to the rest eventually, don't worry, I've come to appreciate this one a bit more. I found myself chuckling more at the dry, witty jokes, gazing at the lovely symmetrical framing, the tracking shots, oh my gosh, the tracking shots are so freaking cool, and Willem frickin' Dafoe, baby. Love that man. The scene where he's introduced and the way the cider is backlit is just gorgeous. I love the movie's use of water. It's like a more polished version of Blood Tea and Red Strings. However, I wouldn't call this my favorite Wes Anderson movie. That might go to the Darjeeling Limited. I mean, come on guys, Jason Schwartzman sadly plays Claire de Lune at one point. He's just like me for real. I need to rewatch the ones I have seen just to be sure. Anyway, since the movie was nominated for an Oscar that year when the characters from the other nominees did interviews, something I really wish they can bring back, the one from Mr. Fox kinda irks me.
What would winning an Oscar mean to you?
Well, of course, it's a tremendous honor to be nominated with such a prestigious group. And these are all highly accomplished films. They are the best of the best. Look at this. You're looking at Princess. What's the Secret of Kells? These are all cartoons. I thought we got nominated like a real movie.
Ugh, man, don't put down my fellows Aisling and Brendan like that. I suppose it's in character for him anyway. Well, aside from that and Dafoe's lack of significant screen time, the other thing I take issue with is, as someone who worked in a grocery store, there should be a night crew, which renders the final scene inaccurate. 0 out of 10, SMH, next movie. Wait, one more thing. For a movie that's only an hour, it packs quite a punch. The first 5 minutes are so shocking, even I shouldn't spoil it. It's really fascinating to watch such a mature story with kids. I wonder who helped write this. Wait, Celine Sciamma did? Yep. It made me think back to this movie I watched sometime last year called Liana. It's a documentary about orphan children in Swaziland, now known as Eswatini, who create a story about a young heroine. It cuts back and forth from the lives of these children to them telling the story of Liana with these beautiful still, but also kinda sorta animated sequences. They're both films about young orphans who experience the harsh realities of life that no one should go through, let alone children. Even though they're aware of said harsh realities and other adult topics, they still look at them with an innocent mindset. There's this one part where a character is talking about why each kid was put in the orphanage. One of them, Camille, is described as having her trauma shine in her eyes, and that really puts everything in perspective. Zucchini's art style may take a little to get used to, but afterward I found myself rather fond of the quirky designs. I wish it was longer though, but like I said, it's only an hour, so you might as well check it out. Yeah, I'm surprised it's this high too. It's just funny, okay? This is my favorite movie from Aardman. Still haven't seen Arthur Christmas yet though, sorry. I hadn't seen this movie in almost 10 years until I watched it for this ranking, but I liked it more than I did before. I don't know, man, this movie's just a fun time. Mr. Bobo's the best. The stop motion blends well with the CG, and I guess I really like animated iterations of Charles Darwin. They're just so entertaining. It's funny watching the pirates finding they do, in fact, own a dodo bird. They may not have paid in a continent, but they did drive the Queen of England insane. As you can see, there's a whole lot of stuff to like about this movie. Come on, Mr. Bobo. So stick with me, because I'm going to talk about ones that I love even more. So stick with me, because I'm going to talk about ones that I love even more. Mom, Olivia's making this Phineas and Ferb reference go on for too long.
Sometimes people say that my head is too big for my body, and then I say
Compared to what? I kind of said everything I wanted to say in my Best of 2022 video. It wasn't much to begin with, but I don't know, it's a sweet flick to vibe to. Jenny Slate is a great actor, perfectly bringing Marcel to life with our second little guy alert in this video. He's the somehow fascinating blend of child naivety and being wise beyond his years.
I come to the bathroom, I get these curly hairs. You have to uncurl it, but then you can see it's really long and strong. What are you laughing at? We call them hardy hairs.
I rewatched this on a rainy day and it felt nice, so I suggest doing the same. Still wish Rosa Salazar had more screen time though.
Peace. What a weird thing to try to test to see if someone else is into. Like, of course I'm into peace. No, sorry, I'm a real war person. No, war. Actually, I sign all my personal letters. War.
Oh, I freaking love this little man. Man, what a classic. I think it's a Halloween movie first and foremost, but I also love how it's suitable to watch during Christmas time as well. It just makes it all the more unique. I love that Jack's speaking voice is Prince Humperdinck even though he only has 5 lines. Eureka! I love that Jack's singing voice is Danny Elfman and how he brings so much charm and charisma, particularly with my favorite song, Jack's Lament. Seriously, these shots go so bloody hard, oh my gosh. A number of shots go hard, actually, on top of his character animation. Seriously, you don't understand how much joy his character animation brings me. This movie's been growing on me over the past few years and I find something new to appreciate on each watch. Like the use of blacklight for the introduction to Oogie Boogie is just mwah. It's kind of hysterical that Disney thought Nightmare was going to be too scary for kids back in '93, so they released it under their more adult-oriented Touchstone Pictures banner, but now because it's a huge cult classic, they're like,
buy my merch, buy my merch, buy my merch.
Capitalism be like that, I suppose. You know how I was talking about those trick-or-treat bags from Disneyland earlier? I think that was the same year my uncle and I went on Haunted Mansion Holiday near midnight, Disney's closing time, but it broke down and we ended up being stuck on the ride until almost 1 in the morning. IDK. Whenever I watch this movie, that's what I'm reminded of. Actually, my old high school did a theater production of this during my freshman year. I was too shy to audition for it, but 2 of my friends were in it as Locke and an ensemble member. It was a very legal production and it's definitely not available to watch on YouTube right now as I speak. Nope. Not at all. Ben, Maxine, if you're watching this, hi. Overall, a great film directed by not Tim Burton. This movie. This frickin' movie. Pretty great. This is one of the most chaotic movies I've seen, and it certainly deserves to have panic in its title.
Oh no! They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Why are this cowboy and Native American living together? I don't know. They just do. Why are they man-children? I don't know. They just are. Why do they also live with a horse named Horse? I don't know. They just do. How does Horse have the ability to drive? I don't know. He just does. You get the idea. This is the 3rd movie in a row where I love it more over time, but aside from that, it doesn't happen very often. I love when it does though. This movie gives off Lego Movie energy, probably because of the character's limited movement and how a joke is thrown at you every minute. It even feels like a kid is the one creating all of this. The directors of this also did Ernest and Celestine, so they know what they're doing. Let them cook. I know this movie is based off a series of shorts, and I've only seen a couple of them since I don't think the others are available in the US, or at least I haven't found them yet. I really like the Christmas special, so I'm looking forward to watching the rest at some point. In the meantime, watch this movie and have a great time. Sweet Coraline, ba ba ba. Ah yes, the movie that gave me my first viral video. Don't watch it though, it sucks. I had a hard time debating whether or not this or Nightmare was better because I have a really big musical bias, but I gave the edge to Coraline just because it has a stronger story. Nothing wrong with simple stories, I just kind of prefer my narratives to have some oomph to them. Oompa, oompa, if you will. Yet another movie where I gained more appreciation on rewatches, which I'm quite proud of myself for because this was the movie that gave little old me that decade-long vendetta against Laika. Woo! Character development. I hate that I have to admit it, but can you at least see where I'm coming from? The whole part during the climax gave me this familiar yet undoubtedly disturbing feeling, as if I had a nightmare about it when I was younger that I buried deep into my subconscious. I don't know how else to explain it. This may have been the movie that made me refuse to watch almost the entire horror genre to this day, but being able to look back on it now has given me a much more nuanced perspective because, hey, now I love it. I love how The Other World has the ability to be vibrant and inviting one moment and then dreary and terrifying the next. There's great contrast with the regular world as well. The original looks like it had its color and life sucked out of it, but when we enter The Other World, it has such warm and cozy lighting that for Coraline and the audience, it's a breath of fresh air. Part of me wishes they kept the movie as a musical because The Other Father song, as short as it is, has great foreshadowing and is a freaking bop, let me tell you. Making up a song about Coraline. She's a peach, she's a doll, she's a pal of mine. And it looks like those monkey bone slippers got an update. I like that he's not evil like the Beldam and he just kinda got roped into her antics. I know he was basically created by her, but he probably got attached to Coraline and I feel so bad for him. He doesn't mean anything by it. The way his voice gets more distorted as the movie goes on is super creepy, I love it. Even those friggin' piano hands are in on it, making the other father do things against his will. It starts as simple as them making him raise his hands when he asks who's hungry, to them trying to make him kill Coraline. It's great stuff. I also love when Keith David is in, well, anything. And this movie might have the best editing and cinematography on this entire list. The match fades, the Dutch angles, the snappy cuts to make the passage of time seamless. It's so fun to look at. Like Jack, there's a lot of my favorite character movements as well. And talk about that Van Gogh dream sequence. It's utterly stunning to look at. Hey, it's kind of like Loving Vincent, don't you think? If only I knew how to lucid dream, I could make mine look that pretty. I got the book it's adapted from a while ago, but read it for this video, and can I just say how well Henry Selick and Neil Gaiman go together? It has its differences in lines of dialogue taken verbatim, as does any book-to-movie adaptation, but Selick was able to capture the spirit, but also flesh out the right moments so well. During the third act, when what's left of the other YB is dangling in the wind, it made me think back to one of Gaiman's other stories, Click Clack the Rattlebag. He wrote it after the movie came out, but I thought it was an eerie coincidence. Makes me wonder if we'll ever get some sort of adaptation of it. I think that would be really cool. Anyway, this movie slaps, and it's always nice to see a mainstream animated movie push that PG rating. Also, just as a precaution, don't read this book at 2 in the morning. It kind of looks like I was the hand model for this. Not to be confused with The Miracle Worker.
End of the first lesson.
To be completely honest with you, of all the films on this list, this was the one I was looking forward to revisiting the most, despite it being the least popular according to Letterboxd. Well, that's what I originally wrote until I found out Even Mice Belong in Heaven and The Tower exist, but the sentiment still stands. It's another amazing animated film adapting the Bible starring Ralph Fiennes, but this time as Jesus. Aw, Ramesses turned over a new leaf in the New Testament, good for him. Yet it's nowhere near talked about as much as The Prince of Egypt, which sucks because I think it deserves it. I'm shocked that I never watched this during my elementary years when I went to a Christian school. I guess the teachers were like, nah, let's watch God's Not Dead instead. The stop motion isn't the most fluid and the characters aren't the most expressive, but there's a sense of earnestness there. That's the budget they had, so I can't really blame them, but at least it still looks really good. I mean, what's your excuse? Oh my god. What's your excuse? $250-ish million Lion King remake? For the sake of ultra realism? Please. The movie has these amazing and surreal sequences that I think are made of oil pastel. It's used when Jesus shares his thought-provoking parables, his flashbacks, or if the visuals just need to be a little more abstract. Just look at this transition between the two mediums.
Oh, damn, that's smooth.
I definitely suggest watching Houston Coley's video about biblical movies if you want more insight. He makes really good points about how it's so rare to see color in these types of films and how people from this time period actually had, you know, fun and vibed, both of which are seen in this movie. He's the only other person on YouTube who I've seen talk about this movie. Actually, I'm pretty sure that was a video that got me subscribed to him. I love rewatching it. It's one of my favorites from him, so totally check it out. Makes me wish we had more animated Bible movies like The Prince of Egypt and The Miracle Maker, not, you know.
No! No!
Easter may have come and gone, but I highly recommend you give this a watch.
Take and eat. This is my body, which is broken for you.
Your body?
My oh my, am I glad this won the Oscar this year. That's actually why I delayed this video until after the ceremony. I wanted to see what the results would be. Not just because Pinocchio happens to be my favorite out of the nominees, but because Guillermo del Toro is such a big advocate for wanting animation to have the respect it deserves. I love when major live-action directors dip their toes into the medium. Most of them specialize in stop motion, what are the odds, but del Toro is the only one who actively preaches about its significance. But now to the actual movie. I talked about why I loved it in my Best Movies of 2022 video if you want to check that out by clicking the card in the corner or in the description once you're done in this video. My second viewing of this film was in theaters, and let me just say that seeing the N logo on the big screen was just bewildering. It didn't even hit me until then that this was my first time watching a Netflix movie in theaters. The irony. How cool is it that the animators got high priority in the credits? That's a massive W. I had known about this movie for years, hearing that it would be released eventually. I've never been one for Pinocchio stories.
Stupid me!
Ugh, I'd never even seen a GD2 movie, but here we are. It's all the more surprising that it ended up being this high on my list. An absolute knockout that deserves all the acclaim. Aside from its guaranteed Best Animated Feature Oscar nomination, I was hoping to get one for Best Original Song for Ciao Papa. It didn't get it, unfortunately, but at least there was a different song I was rooting for. Do you know Naatu?
I've had enough of this nonsense! You two, out!
No, Jake, I've had enough of your work. Go!
Once more, we have character animation that I freaking love obsessing over because I think it's amazing how detailed the animators were that I love every frame of it. I think the pacing sputters a bit when the whale shows up, but everything from its themes of mortality, the sprites' designs, Pinocchio asking the fascist Podesta who controls you goes so hard, to him being a little scrunkly scrimblow is what I love about this movie. It's not that Pinocchio condones fascism, or any ism for that matter. He learns that isms in his opinion are not good. A person should not believe in an ism, not even a wooden boy with a borrowed soul. He should believe in himself. Wow, if I had a nickel for every time I referenced Ferris Bueller's ism quote in a video, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that happened twice, right? Del Toro already has another stop-motion film he's working on called The Buried Giant, an adaptation of the novel of the same name by Kazuo Ishiguro that I'm looking forward to. He's even launching a stop-motion workshop in Guadalajara called Centro de Animación Industrial for emerging Mexican talents. How awesome is that? I'd love to see Mexico throw their hat in the animation ring. So heck yeah, this movie slaps. Go watch it if you haven't already as a way to remind Netflix that, hey, maybe stop disregarding animation. The shows you keep canceling are not to blame for you guys losing money. Now for my favorite stop-motion animated film, I only have one way to introduce it as such. If you must blink, do it now.
After all these years, finally, we have them all.
I'm not sure how many people are going to have this as their number one, but it's certainly mine. This. This was what broke up my one-sided like a feud. Dude, I was terrified during those first few scenes when I watched it for the first time, but what I got was an emotional, gorgeous, and heartwarming tale set in feudal Japan that needed a lot more Japanese voice actors. You're telling me you cast George Takei and you barely give him any lines?
Oh my.
The cast we have is very talented, I won't deny that, but it's something I've taken issue with as I've gotten older. Ralph Fiennes is great as always, the confrontation in the climax is my favorite scene, but I wish he posed more as an active threat, rather than having less than a collective 10 minutes of screen time. However, every word he says in the third act oozes evil, I'm obsessed with it.
You will be immortal. You will be infinite.
I still consider this to be a drop-dead gorgeous and magical experience with every watch. It features Laika's, and I think the tallest stop-motion puppet ever, standing at around 16 feet tall. Their smallest puppet being 2 inches and made of actual origami, a total of over 200,000 leaves being used to create 3 boats needed for different scenes, and what might just be the best and most immaculate blend of stop-motion and digital effects. Whenever there's a scene with the shamisen, it is peak fiction. We get a bit of that signature Laika creep factor with the sisters, who are pretty good threats. They have over 600 feathers on their capes.
I remember how we looked up to you. Of all of us, you shone the brightest. Such a waste.
Those who shine brightest often burn the fastest? Can't believe one of them Vecna'd little Hanzo. That wasn't nice of her. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God. It's because of this movie that I found my favorite Beatles song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. The cover that plays during the credits absolutely slaps, even though technically it should be renamed While My Shamisen Gently Weeps. I recommend checking out Cinema One's video on the movie. He has some really great insight and jokes.
Attacking innocent villagers? The Man in Black never did have any scruples.
Can I mention how cool Laika's credits are? I love watching these ones with its ukiyo-e-inspired art style. They got the Great Wave off Kanagawa there and everything. The mid-credit scene with the making of the Red Skeleton is especially awesome. I love that Laika does this with all their movies. The Box Trolls one is my personal favorite, but this is a close runner-up. In fact, all the behind-the-scenes footage is incredible to watch. It would be an exaggeration to say handmade feature animation like 2D and stop motion is dead, and sure, it's less common nowadays, at least in US, but here's the evidence to show that it is indeed alive and well. In the age of green screens and we'll fix it in post, it's just awe-inspiring to see practical sets being built, let alone for an animated movie. I don't have anything against digital effects, I just said earlier how awesome they look in this movie, but there's nothing quite like seeing someone sew an insignia or build a temple with their bare hands. It makes the film feel all the more human and gives me the feely feels. The movie's also pretty funny and the characters work really well with one another.
Firing an arrow into a wall is hardly what I'd call impressive.
Oh, look at that. Literally the first time I've ever done it.
We really do feel a genuine connection and bond as the runtime progresses. There's also a ton of gorgeous backdrops Kubo, Monkey, and Beetle wander through. The action set pieces are so fun to watch and so intricately choreographed, it's mind-blowing that someone had to craft this one frame at a time. I love this movie, I'm sure you do too, and it's an absolute ding-dang shame this underperformed at the box office.
And how does this story end?
I kill you.
Everybody gangsta till your 12-year-old grandson says he's gonna kill ya. It's awfully sad that the rest of Laika's filmography has yet to reach the same financial success as Coraline, which sucks because regardless of what I think about them, they don't deserve to underperform at the box office. None of the movies on this list do. Hundreds if not thousands of hours of work go into these films, and I wish more people knew that. I'm a hypocrite for saying this, I know, since I haven't seen a Laika film in theaters since Coraline, but I do regret not seeing them when they came out, especially Kubo. Thankfully, Laika's not going bankrupt or anything, so we can right our wrongs in the future. Their next movie, Wildwood, takes place in the studio's hometown of Portland, Oregon, as well as being their return to their horror roots. It looks like they're also going to foray into adult animation with The Night Gardener, described as a gritty neo-noir folktale. Pretty rocking concept art if you ask me. I'm looking forward to both and will definitely buy a ticket for opening day, and hopefully you will too. Alright, so that's my ranking, 10,000 words later, again, at least from what I could find. If you think there's any I missed that are good, let me know in the comments so I can check them out, as well as telling me what your favorite stop-motion animated movies are. I have a link to the full ranking list on Letterboxd in the description below if you're interested in seeing it in that format. If there were any you watched that you heard about from this video, let me know what you thought. For all I know, you'll end up being a Fantastic Planet stan, and that's valid. I'm probably not going to make another ranking video as big as this for a while because it took me like 6 months to do everything by myself and I want to make smaller videos, but also let me know what other kind of movies you want me to rank. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had fun making it, worked really hard on it, so share it with your friends and don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and join my Patreon to support my channel. Keep animation in the conversation, and I'll see you later.